Let's talk about dashes, hyphens, and brackets. Now, these are things that we use sparingly in our writing, but they have very, very specific purposes. So let's go over why we use them. The first are dashes, and that's when you have two dash marks in a row. If you notice when you're typing it on a computer, the computer, once you hit space, will make it one long dash, and that signifies that it's a dash. And what we use it for is to show a sudden break in thought, or to set off in a positive phrase, and that's one of those phrases that renames the subject. If we have a positive phrase that uses a lot of commas, rather than setting it off with commas, we set it off with dashes. So, Miss Aquino, dash, my wonderful, helpful teacher, dash. Otherwise, we'd have too many commas here for this to be a clear reference. All right? Hyphens are similar to dashes, only it's just one dash mark. And what you use those for are kind of some very specific, minute details, but we want to make sure we get them right. You use them in a fraction used as a modifier. So this is one of those quirks of the English language. You're not always going to use them when you write out a fraction like 1/3, but if you say, I ate 1/3 of the pizza, then you're going to want to say 1-3rd. So for a fraction used as a modifier, you're also going to use them in compound numbers from the numbers 21 to the number 99, all right? In multiple word modifiers, you're going to hyphenate those words, and you've got an example right there. If you've got two words that are working together to modify this word, go ahead and hyphenate them. And then these are just kind of memorization keys. You're going to use them with the prefixes x, self, all, and great, and you're always going to use a hyphen with the suffix elect or the suffix free. So that's just kind of a memorization thing. The last punctuation mark you're going to deal with are brackets. And brackets are only used to enclose an explanation in quoted material. So if you're quoting somebody, they've said something or made a reference to a person, and you need to give more clarification, you put that clarification inside of those brackets. So let's take a look at some examples. All right. The boy claimed that he, Mr. Jones, wants to be a big star. All right. So if we look here, we've got he and we've got Mr. Jones that adds a little bit more clarification. What we can assume is that Mr. Jones was not part of that original quotation, but if we leave it at he, the audience might not be aware of who he is referring to. So as a writer, we added Mr. Jones inside of brackets to provide that clarification. All right, in our next example, I have 22 different necklaces. There we've got a number between 21 and 99, so we need to make sure we stick in that hyphen, and it's just one small dash there to join 22 together. Finally, I love multi-word modifiers. So again, we've got these two words, multi and word, working together to modify modifiers, so we can hyphenate that. And last but not least, she, a hardworking, diligent young woman, put herself through college. So we've got she as our subject, and then we've got this phrase that modifies it, a hardworking, diligent young woman. The problem here is that we've got commas in here, so that if we set this off with a comma, and we put a comma here, it gets a little confusing. So because we have commas inside this appositive phrase, instead of setting it off with commas, we're going to set it off with those dashes to kind of really set it apart and clarify what's inside of there. So now you've seen the three really specific uses that we have for these punctuation marks, and hopefully you can utilize them in your writing.